Alright everyone, so today we're going to be talking about Dragon Age 2 in 2025. I recently finished this game, and it was great. It's a game that I played before. I played Origins and loved it so much. You know, this is back in like 2017, playing Origins for the first time, and then of course I was hooked into the series, and I had to play more of it. So I eventually got into Dragon Age 2, which was funny because I had the Xbox One, and I was playing it through backwards compatibility for Origins, but for some reason Dragon Age 2 was still not backwards compatible, so I actually dusted up my old 360 in order to be able to play this game, and it was totally worth it then, and it was totally worth it now to play it again on PC. Look, this game has a lot of flaws, and is far from being a perfect game. Like, I would say Dragon Age Origins is honestly, like, if I had to give a number score, would give it probably like a 9.5 out of 10. With Dragon Age 2, I'd probably give it more like a 7.5 at best, and it's not because of the gameplay itself being bad. It's not because the story is bad. The story is actually incredible and very captivating, with some of the best writing BioWare has ever produced. The flaws really lie in the lack of role-playing elements. Like, there are choices you can make, and there are different paths you can take, and kind of a different Hawke that you can create, because Hawke is the name of the main protagonist in the game, but you're locked to playing as a human. You can choose between male and female, you can choose between being a warrior, a rogue, or a mage, and there are different things that you can change about Hawke, but for the most part, it's the same person, same character, unlike Origins, where you had so many different life paths, and Origins, literally, that was the whole reason why the game was named Dragon Age Origins, is because you had 6 different options. You could be a dwarf commoner, dwarf noble, human noble, mage, a Dalish elf, or a city elf. All different backgrounds that actually played a role in the story, and changed certain dialogue options with characters. It was great. With Dragon Age 2, you didn't really have that much, so that was one thing that was, in my opinion, a huge downgrade. But on the other hand, they were able to tell a more cohesive story that they wanted to portray, because of the fact that it was one character and one character alone, more akin to Commander Shepard in the Mass Effect series, right? Which is, you know, on its own is not a bad thing, but when the first game in the series had more options, yeah, you gotta, like, say, it's kind of disappointing in comparison. Then the actual level design itself. I mean, the quests, I think, were implemented fairly well. I enjoyed playing the quest in this game, but oh my god, the level design was abysmal. Not necessarily on surface, but because of how repetitive it is. Like, if you're playing a quest where it takes place in a cave, or it takes place in a mansion, or it takes place in the forest, every single instance where the mission takes place in a cave or a forest or a mansion, it is going to be the exact same level design each and every time. There is no variance at all. And it really gets frustrating once you're deep into your playthrough. It's like, okay, I've already done this before. I already explored this before. So, like, the sense of wonder and exploration is completely gone in Dragon Age 2. So, for that reason, that's why it goes from, like, a 9.5 to a 7.5. But otherwise, I think the gameplay, in some ways, was an improvement over Origins. I think that especially magic feels really good to use in this game. And I even like how, based on the choices you made in Dragon Age Origins, there's different things that happen. Nothing like cataclysmic that will completely change the outcome of the main story, but you'll actually get exclusive side quests and missions based on certain outcomes that you did in Dragon Age Origins. And I think that was just amazing that they implemented that. And there are even some references to things that your character did in Origins based on the choices. So I love that aspect of it. Even though it's kind of its own thing in its own setting, separate from Origins, I like how it feels like you're part of the same world, and it doesn't feel completely disconnected from the previous game. It feels like a sequel, in at least the most fundamental ways. And that's something that's worth bringing up compared to Veilguard, and how it's completely disconnected from the rest of the series. No choices are imported whatsoever, and it's just a complete pile of shit game. I would not recommend Veilguard, just saying, if you're really trying to get into the series. I would stop at Inquisition and pretend that Veilguard did not exist. But Dragon Age 2, I would say is pretty good, is honestly somewhat underrated. It got a lot of hate, and I understand why it got the hate. Like, a lot of the criticism is definitely warranted, and I'm not going to pretend like this game was perfect by any means. And the development of this game was rushed so much, it took them less than a year to make the game after they finished Dragon Age Origins. So, obviously, compromises are going to be made. And a lot of that falls under EA and less BioWare. At least BioWare back then, that was actually talented and good. Plus, they were doing Mass Effect at the same time. So they had a lot on their plate. So I'm not going to fault the developers. I think they actually honestly did an amazing job, and it was very impressive what they were able to pull off, given the constraints that was placed on them by EA. So, yeah, overall, I would recommend this game in 2025. I think the gameplay still holds up fairly decently well. I mean, it's obviously not going to be as flashy and cinematic as the gameplay that you're going to see in Veilguard or even Inquisition. But honestly, I think if I had to rank all the Dragon Age games, Dragon Age Origins has got to be the best. It's not even close. But I would put Dragon Age 2 as the second best, and then Inquisition, and then Veilguard. Because at least, you know, despite the repetition getting annoying in Dragon Age 2, at least Dragon Age 2 had more respect for your time as a player, because Inquisition just had you wandering aimlessly in this quote-unquote open world, but it was nothing but empty space, and there was nothing to do, so you're just wasting time, and it was mandatory, too, in order for you to progress through the main story, do a bunch of these bullshit fetch quests, side quests, crap that wasn't even fun to play. It felt like a grind a lot of the time, instead of an actual joy to play, but the story of Inquisition was actually really good. I would put it probably on the same level as Dragon Age 2. But, yeah, Dragon Age 2 is still good 14 years later. I would recommend, though, play Origins first if you're going to get into Dragon Age 2, and then play Dragon Age 2, and then maybe play Inquisition, but don't play Veilguard if you know what's good for you. Just don't.